Hey, Autumn Athletes, Larry Sorensen here, and today I'm going to connect with Herjit Sutherland and find out what makes her an Autumn athlete that's not done yet. Before we get started, remember if you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, ding that bell for notifications, and don't forget to visit automathletesndy.com for your cool NDY merch and apparel. Okay, enough for the commercial. Let's get into this. Herjit, thanks so much for joining us today. Why don't you start us off and tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Herjit, and well, where do I start? I'm a mum of two. I'm also a wife, and I'm a doctor by profession. Always have been for about 15 years. And yeah, thanks for asking me to do this. I've been pushing myself outside my comfort zone, doing something a bit different lately. And yeah, I'm delighted to be here. From the UK, I live in a very small part of Scotland, right in the tip of Scotland in the North Scottish Highlands in a very small, remote, and rural area.
Well, great to meet you. So we're going to talk obviously about what you're doing now in a little bit, but I kind of always want to find out, if you had any kind of athletic past. So did you play any kind of sports, like in high
Yeah.
school or, in your early adulthood? Kind of
Mm,
fill us in on all
mm,
of that up until
mm.
what you've gotten involved in now.
Yeah, so I've always been pretty active. You know, definitely very active, and my family are quite active. I played a lot of squash in my youth, and then at university, I was squash club captain. I ran the club, so I was very much into being very kind of athletic, and racket sports was actually more my thing. Yeah, so always done a bit of sports, but probably not something, at a competitive level.
So did you continue doing that into your late 20s and 30s? You're 40 now, so obviously we're going to talk about what you're doing here now at 40, but what did you do to kind of stay fit in your, late 20s, 30s? Anything or just the same stuff you're
Um,
talking about?
I didn't quantify it, but I've always been active, I would say. I've done shorter marathons, but not anything, nothing crazy, nothing ultra marathon, right?
Mhm.
But racket sports, I did that in my 20s, all through my 20s, weekends, personal, and yeah, also at university as well.
Now we got a little idea of your history of athletics. Now you've gotten involved in something here, at the age of 40 or a little before that, obviously you've been training. So tell us about this activity and tell us about, your successes that you've had in the fitness world.
I also qualified as a fitness instructor a few years ago, just igniting my passion for basically being active. I just wanted to get credited in that. And that led me onto a path of thinking, well, how can I use what I've learned to, improve my own fitness? And that got me into strength training. And being in the medical field, I wanted to do something that would improve health. And there's so many health benefits to strength training. It was like a win-win. So the more I read about it, the more it made sense to me, the more I kind of engaged in that activity. So that's what I was training for. It started off just kind of weightlifting, going to the gym, isolated movements, regular exercise, to actually entering as a novice in a bodybuilding competition just recently.
Tell us a little bit more about this experience of this contest and how you did and what you think about it after, and are you going to continue on with more contests? Kind of fill us in on all that.
It was quite a rigorous process. It required quite a lot of training, maybe 4 times a week towards the end, um, and some cardiovascular training as well, but nothing too heavy. And then complemented with a specific type of diet. So nutrition wise, which I've been on this journey for eating really well for a long time. There wasn't too much to change, but that was required for the training. And yeah, it was probably, well, it took several weeks. I did have a holiday in the middle, but I kept that quite how can I say it, kind of quite tight when I was away. And then yeah, came back to training for another several weeks and then entered this competition, which was based in Ireland. I flew over there with my coach. And yeah, I just thought, well, why not? I'm 40 years old and it's now or never. I'm either going to do it now or I'm not. And why not? I've got nothing to lose.
And now, what was the category that you entered?
So I entered Masters 40 for my age,
Was that bikini? Was it bodybuilding? What
fit model category,
fit
which is
model? Okay, fit
yeah,
model.
that's a new category at the moment. And actually, the feedback from the judges was super interesting. They almost said that I'd conditioned to the level of bikini, which is super interesting. Actually, getting that feedback afterwards, which makes me think, well, what direction do I go now? It was really positive, the feedback I got, but
Yeah.
definitely give me some food for thought.
So What are you thinking, or have you not decided yet? Are you going to try to go for that other level, or just kind of stick where you're at, or what?
So I'm definitely gonna go into a phase of just a longer term growth because I've really enjoyed the exercise and the training, and that's something that just keeps me well physically and mentally. So I'm gonna take some time rather than go back to just going competing in the next season. I really want to take the time to, next time I go on the stage, it has to feel right, and it can't just be just for the sake of it, just because it's just been done. So I really want to take the time to feel like I've had an achievement. So maybe in a year I would, but I want more time for growth. And something like maybe bikini level would be of interest to me, but
Mhm.
yeah, it just requires a bit more growth. I haven't completely figured it out, but I did enjoy the stage experience.
So obviously, it sounds like you've had a great, successful competition, but you never told us how'd you finish.
I was super grateful because I got first place, and I never thought that that was really possible. So it was an absolutely brilliant day to be get the medal and get the gold. It was brilliant.
So you talked a little bit about your diet being tight and strict. Give us an idea of what your typical diet would be. And did you start, tracking macros and so forth in this process, or is that something you're looking forward to as you go to the next level?
Yeah, I've done that for a long time. All my meals are split macros, every single meal, and it's a fairly high protein and moderate fat type diet. It's been like that for a long time, and there hasn't been much change to that during training, really. It's always been split macros, so it's I've been used to that. Been having that for over a year, maybe a bit longer. There's been hydration was a key thing. Definitely had to look at that and kind of salt intake and sodium. So there was definitely a bit of that and some supplementations, all natural. Just it was a natural contest. There wasn't anything. It was a drug tested event as well. So, but there wasn't too much work to do because that's kind of the lifestyle I've been living for some time now.
What is your weight category right now, and then how many grams of protein a day do you take in, just for our audience to get an idea?
So my weight is just coming to about 49 kilograms. So um, that's a good question, Larry. Off the top of my head, how much protein do I have? It would be at least 2 grams per kilogram.
So you had mentioned, a little bit about your training, but I want to know a little more about the actual weight
Mm,
training that you did
mm,
do for this, as in, weights, repetitions type,
mm.
how you actually approached it. And then what's your plan to change to go to maybe that bikini level?
I did have coaching input because I felt like this was quite, a new area for me, but we figured it out together and it required, because I've got quite a lot of growth upper half as opposed to lower half. So we increased the days that I did leg workouts. So it would be 2 leg workouts, one arm workout per week, plus a core and kind of all of a central kind of workout, which would be a shorter one. So it'd be 4 workouts a week, but 2 days would be leg. Um, so yeah, that worked out better just because it required more growth in the legs. And repetition wise, yeah, so per workout maybe takes me about an hour, maybe a little bit under, and that can be about 7, 8 exercises. Within that, there would be 12 reps and 3 sets.
Kind of switching gears a little bit, what does your family think about this new endeavor?
They've been really supportive. My sister in particular has almost followed suit, almost, and is kind of doing the same thing, something that we've talked about. Everyone's been really supportive. I haven't had anyone say anything otherwise. My friends probably always thought I was really active, and they've always said, you've always been really ambitious, and this is probably just kind of shows your drive to do something else. If anything, it's come out in something like this.
Yeah.
So that's been really nice, and it's been really nice to connect with other people, almost like finding your tribe again and later on in life, that has been really, really nice for me.
What kind of doctor are you? What do you practice? And then how has that kind of, related to this whole experience? And, kind of like the last question, your patients, do they know what you do? Do they ask you questions? It's kind of obvious when you get to a certain fitness level that you're doing something. So,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm a general practitioner, a GP, but I wear 2 hats. I work in occupational health and half the time, but also general practice as well. And yeah, I certainly don't have patients talk to me about it, but I talk about health and fitness as everyday bread and butter of my practice. So I'm really enjoying the conversations I'm having with people at work. And if they ask me about me, then I'd be happy to divulge. But yeah, it's nice to actually impart, a bit of knowledge that's kind of been lived in experience. I think that makes me a better clinician.
All right. So, you got a career, obviously, wearing your double hats. You've got two children, correct? You're 40 years old. So how do you fit in the extra training that it takes? And then how do you even, guide through now it says you've been eating clean for a long time, so I assume your family kind of follows suits, but, how do you coordinate all that together to be able to do it all at once?
So what I would say is, it didn't happen overnight. It really didn't. It is something like it was a transition that happened over time, and actually the habits just developed and developed and developed as my training developed. I knew that my nutrition had to follow suit. So it's almost become natural. It's not something that I think about. It's just the way I live now. So I try to go at times that are convenient that won't impact too much on family life. My oldest daughter is into gymnastics and she goes to competitions. So she has training each week, and I fit in my gym sessions when she's at gymnastics. I try to utilize the time like that. If I've got an hour just before the kids need picking up, I try to go to the gym and then pick the kids up when I can. At the weekends, both my girls go to gymnastics on a Saturday, and I'd either go for a swim or go to the gym. But I'm certainly not spending time in the gym in the evening when my kids are at home, because that for me, that is a larger price to pay. There was a bit of that going on towards the competition. It just required that for a few weeks, but it's not something that's long term. And then you asked me about how do you incorporate, the nutrition with family and meals. Well, what I would say to that is, my child likes broccoli and she likes feeding me vegetables, and that is that I won there. That's a win-win for me, And she says the word healthy. Mommy, is this healthy? And we'll talk about whether it's healthy. And I'm okay with that. We don't count macros, we don't count calories. I'm not looking at the back of packets with them. But there's definitely an atmosphere where we talk about, well, is this healthy? Is this not? Does mommy like this? Does mommy not? And sometimes they want to eat with me, sometimes they don't. We do go out for family meals, and sometimes I'll push everything back and say, well, this is family time. This is a family meal. We are going out. And that time is something that I would give my family. That's when we will eat together. So, there has been compromises and sacrifices, but I'm very conscious of not letting it impact too much on our family life.
Through your fitness journey, whether it was younger or even during this prep and so forth, have you had any kind of injuries or setbacks there that maybe hindered your fitness performance all around?
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned prep there. That's quite a challenging time, I think, for any athlete that's doing a competition. That definitely made me feel more fatigued towards the end of the competition. So I know I wasn't performing at a maximum level, and but I didn't get any particular injuries. I'm pretty cautious, I think. I will probably drop down a weight if I thought I was going to injure myself, if I felt I wasn't fueled properly. So there was a bit of that going on towards the end. I'm very mindful of that. But I didn't have any specific injuries, no.
You mentioned to me when we were talking previously about you're kind of in a rural area and maybe getting to the gym is not that easy. Tell us a little bit about that.
When I started out on this, I was thinking, how am I actually going to do this? So I've got some weights at home and I've got a barbell at home, and I'm just slowly accumulating things at home. But to actually do progressive overload and to actually quantify your progress, you need a gym with proper facilities. Actually, you need gym machines where you can actually increase the weight, and then if you're actually progressing. So, and I didn't have much choice because we're in a super small place. So I just went to the local gym, and we did manage to put some exercises together. Now I'm very conscious that actually it doesn't fit my needs anymore. I'll be joining another gym which has far more range of machines, and I've actually just found this gym out. It only opened 2 months ago, which is absolutely perfect for me. But what I'm super proud of is doing it from that small gym, which only has a handful of machines, and to work the lower body, it's got hardly any. It's really got hardly any. And I was thinking, how am I going to actually get growth, in these muscle groups, because I don't actually have the machine access. So I'm super proud. It was really challenging, which I just had to use hand weights, but there's definitely a better way to do that if you've got better facilities. And anyway, there's this new gym that's opened up, and I'm super excited to join that.
All right, so age 40, kids, career, all this kind of stuff. What's the motivation here to take on this kind of a new challenge and really push yourself farther than maybe you have before?
Life is a ticking bomb, isn't it? That's what I think. And being in the medical field, I'm always thinking life and death. And maybe more so than the average person, we've only got a finite amount of time. And I want to use that time to the best of my ability. I've always been fairly driven, but since I had kids, I did lose my way a little bit. I got lost in motherhood. I lost a bit of me for a while, I guess you could say. Just because motherhood required that. It required me to let go of all the things that made me me, just to focus on being a mother. And that required quite a few years. My kids are 1 6 and 1 is 7. They're quite close together. My body changed. I changed. And getting back, I think, all of that about me now from fitness and remembering who I am. My kids are a bit older now, and they are my driving force. They see what I can do. Can mummy do it? You're never too old to compete and to improve your health or improve your fitness level. And, if mummy can go for it, then the kids can go for it. And, honestly, what you're doing in the household, it inspires the little ones around you.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
If you could bottle your secret sauce to health and fitness, what would the ingredients to that recipe be?
Oh, that is a really tricky question. But I think when you start off on something like this, you have to do it for the right reasons. And this is going to sound really soft and non-medical at all, but um, the drive needs to come for you, I think. It has to be done for you. If you're doing it for someone else, or you're doing it through hate, you're doing it to rectify something, or there's been a problem that needs fixing, I think that's a short-term journey. If you're doing it for the right reasons and you're talking to yourself in a positive way, and actually you're just going to keep moving forward and moving forward, because actually the positive emotions that we had, they drive us forward and are longer lasting rather than the negative ones that are shorter lasting, because you really do need to give a lot to actually change lifestyle and to eat healthily and to do something a bit out of the norm. You have to think differently. And if you're thinking in a negative way, then you're likely to actually relapse and go back to eating rubbish, basically.
If you could go back and talk to your, maybe 20-year-old or 25-year-old self, is there anything that you learned along the way that maybe you would whisper in your ear?
So I probably didn't believe when I was younger that I could do things. I didn't believe that it was possible. Maybe it was environment, maybe it was what people were telling me around me. And over time, as you grow up and you maybe get over one hurdle and you get over the next hurdle, that belief in yourself, it slowly grows. And actually, what I would whisper in my ear to my 16-year-old self that was sitting her at A levels and didn't get the grades that she thought she deserved, it's okay, is what I would say to her. It's going to be okay, because if you believe in yourself, and that belief took a long, long time, and I probably would say to her, believe in yourself and don't worry, because it will all come together. That's what I would say.
Do you have any kind of social media presence out there? And if you do, tell us a little bit about, what you do out there online and where we can find you.
So I started to actually film and do video content about my fitness journey on Instagram. You can find me at Herjipie, which is Herjipie, which is basically my very colloquial name. And yeah, I try to put handy tips on there for women like me who work full time, who do childcare, who've got kids and want to just improve their health and fitness. I try to kind of impart what I've found that's helpful for me to hopefully inspire other women.
Well, Herjit, I want to thank you so much for joining us today to let us know what makes you an autumn athlete that's not done yet. I'd like to wrap up by giving you the floor to give us some final thoughts.
So I guess I would like to say, if this inspires any other woman that's looking for a change, it's absolutely possible. I don't think you'd regret it. And, I feel fantastic. And I'm going to be 41 next week. And 40 to 41 has been one of the best years of my life.
Well, there you go, folks. Herjit Sutherland. She is definitely an autumn athlete that's not done yet. Remember, keep moving, set your own goals, and train hard to achieve them. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.